Yeah, he's. Huh. Welcome, Montaha. We are right now at ANM News, and we are at the moment going live with Montaha Nattah, gutsy, very gutsy young girl, very young lady in Tripoli, in Libya. In Tripoli, in Libya. And first time in an international channel from this part of the world, you see somebody as brave as Montaha on your channel, on your favorite channel, ANM News. And welcome to our channel, Montaha. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem, Montaha. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, it is Montaha Nattah.
Can you just guide me once more?
Yes, it's Montaha. It's just like Montana, but with an H and Nattah.
Great, Montaha. Nice to see you. Nice to see you here, and from all over the globe. And we welcome people across the world who are watching us, who are watching you. And from here, where I am sitting, first let me salute you for being so brave.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, tell me one thing. Libya has been a war-torn country. It's like it's completely at war. According to world reports that we are getting, it's lawlessness everywhere. So, how do you describe your experience, a day's experience in your city, Tripoli? How do you wake up? What do you wake up with, and what do you do generally? How do you? I mean, it's a very scary situation, is it down there?
Yes, it is very appalling, and the situation is very tense here. We basically hear drones and projectiles whistling above our heads most of the time. You sleep and there are bombs outside. You wake up to bomb sounds. It's just in our routine now. It's very scary that you actually get used to those sounds. So situation is very tense. I really do not want anyone to experience such a situation because it may reach to the point you actually have nightmares about bombs and about your house getting bombed and all those conflict actions. So yes, the situation is very.
Manta, a little bit of your background. What are you exactly doing there? You were a student, that's what I guess. Can you just throw a little bit of light on what you do?
Yes, I've lived all my life in Tripoli, Libya, but I moved at the end of 2018 to Lebanon to pursue a bachelor degree in political science. But I kept visiting Libya in every winter break and every summer break, despite the difficulties to actually reach the country, where we passed by almost 3 airports to reach here. But once this pandemic happened, I decided to come back here because, the whole situation got very scary everywhere in the country, whether in Lebanon or here. Yes, here is more difficult as there's a conflict, but I decided to come back because we don't know what's going to happen or when this will end. And if it's the end of the world, then I'd rather be here next to my family.
All right. So, and then when you traveled away from Beirut back to Tripoli, when did you come back?
I came back here in the beginning of March, and once classes were suspended, the Office of International Program there told us if there's a possibility for you to go back home, then go, because we don't know when all this is going to over. Yes, and the process of me packing all my stuff in a period of 2 days was very, very tense, very difficult, very stressful. And I came to Libya through Tunisia. Yes, my flight was from Beirut to Tunisia and then from Tunisia to Tripoli, as we don't have direct flights to Libya.
Okay. There's been a very tense moment those days, definitely coming back to your family. And then once you landed in Tripoli, what's the situation? What's the pandemic situation in Libya, especially in Tripoli at the moment?
Yes, honestly, we're all afraid of COVID-19, of course, but the fear that your house might get bombed at any time is more terrifying than the virus, honestly. And all Libyans know that we have an overwhelmed healthcare system, and we don't have enough ventilators to have patients inside the hospitals. And so we're all taking care of ourselves. We try not to go out. We try to be quarantined all the time and only go out to buy some necessities, and that's it. And what's making it worse, the fact that the LNA, Haftar forces, are actually targeting hospitals and ambulances and patients. So it's really getting scarier even more.
Yeah, I understand. Now, the entire conflict in Libya at the moment is between the GNA and the LNA. That's what we understand. And Prime Minister Fayez Sarraj is trying to ward off, try to keep Khalifa Haftar at bay. So, what is the exact political situation in Libya at the moment?
Yes, basically the conflict is between the LNA and the GNA. The GNA is the UN-based government. It's recognized by the international community, while the LNA is formed by a warlord that is just that he only wants to take over power. And he called his army Libyan, because I live in Lebanon, so I got mixed. And he called it the Libyan National Army, and even though it's not. And he just wants to take over power. He started from Benghazi, and now he wants to take over Tripoli. This war started in 2014, but the Tripoli war exactly started in April 2019, last year. So it's been ongoing for more than a year now.
Yeah, but what about the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Angela Sala, and then they have the Khalid Mishri. So these people, are they supporting General Khalifa Haftar, or they are with the GNA?
Yes, they're supporting Khalifa Haftar basically, and after Khalifa Haftar took over power in Benghazi and the east of Libya in general, it became hard for people to actually oppose him, because whoever opposes his actions gets abducted, killed, assassinated, and stuff. So the idea that he has is the one-man rule. It's just like what we had before in Gaddafi regime, and people in Libya took to the streets to overthrow that tyrant. So we don't want another tyrant now, after we've been through a revolution that lasted for months. We do not want all that scenario to be back in Libya again. So that's why everyone should support the UN recognized government, even though if it's not doing its right job or whatever it is doing, but we cannot support a warlord. So so the situation right now in Libya is kind of divided. It divided people to people who are pro Haftar and people who are against Haftar. So it's not only a matter of GNA and LNA, it's a matter of the civilians themselves. They oppose each other, and it is literally a civil war.
That's very correct. This absolutely, that our research also shows us. I mean, we have been talking to a lot of people in that region who have been experts in the subject, but then no one is a bigger expert than you, because you're right now in Tripoli. But what do you understand that General Haftar is an offshoot? I mean, he was an associate of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. And he was the one who was instrumental, one of those very key people who helped Gaddafi hold on to his regime. And then subsequently he fell out over a war in Chad, as far as we understand. And then he overthrew Gaddafi. So he's also an offshoot of what maybe the other side of the coin of what Gaddafi was all about.
Yes, well, Gaddafi actually exiled him from Libya after he took over power in 1969. And after that, Haftar worked with the CIA in the US, and as many books and research papers say, that he was actually preparing for such thing. He was actually preparing himself to take over power after Gaddafi. So once the revolution started in Libya, he came back and he joined the military forces and what we call in Arabic Thuwar, basically who wanted to overthrow Gaddafi in the beginning of the revolution. And so that's exactly what happened. He literally followed his plan. Once Gaddafi was overthrown, he formed his army and started his battle, basically. And it's well known that whoever takes over power in the capital, then he is the one in power. So that's why he wants to do that. Plus, he has control now on almost every city in Libya, except for a few cities, including the capital. And he controls all the oil fields in Libya. And this is exactly what's making the situation very terrible here, because he has control on the oil fields. He exports the oil to other countries, especially the countries that support him politically, militarily, and financially. So for now, it's been almost 90 days, I guess, since the oil fields are under his control. So even though Libya literally depends on exporting oil, so we started to have this economic crisis now.
Well, then where does it leave Prime Minister Fayez Sarraj? How is he placed at the moment financially? I mean, how is he running the administration? How is he militarily placed? Will he be able to ward off General Haftar?
Yes. Well, since Haftar is being supported by strong nations such as France and Russia and UAE and other countries, the GNA is not being supported by any country except that it signed an agreement with Turkey in the end of 2019 to help the nation, to help the GNA specifically. Yes, of course, there are benefits in return, but it doesn't really matter because it's a matter of life or death right now. And after they signed the agreement with the GNA, things are kind of being under control right now. The agreement helps us a lot. Haftar forces backed and the GNA took over power on many cities that were under Haftar's control, which is something good. Yes, it's a battle. There are a lot of casualties, a lot of mortality and everything, but it's our country. We don't have other choice. Yes, there is ongoing bloodshed, but as I said, it's our country eventually, and we have to take it back. And yes, so the agreement with Turkey helped Libya somehow, and it's still ongoing. Hopefully, the GNA wins the end, because we do not want a warlord.
That's very correct. So describe your day when you wake up, since in the morning, what time you wake up, and then how do you run around the whole day? I mean, what do you do basically the whole day? And are you and the skepticism, like, I mean, do you step out on the street? Do you feel like scary out there on the street? Do you see those grocery shops open? Are there any shopping malls there? Can you just run us through average day in your life?
Yes, well, basically, personally, I still have classes online. I still have exams and everything, because education is still ongoing. And but one thing is, I literally forgot how the sun looks like, how the fresh air is like, because whenever I decide to go out, at least in our garden, to just fresh air, all what I hear is bombs, and you get scared as the sound you can hear it very, very close. So I can't sit outside. No one can sit outside, because many people that sit outside gets elements of bombs and stuff, so it's very dangerous to sit outside. So we always stay inside, and we can't go anywhere because there is a curfew. We're under 24 hours curfew. You cannot go out unless you have an excuse for emergency or something very, very urgent. And even without the curfew, you can't go anywhere in Tripoli. Yes, you can go to work, you can go to specific places, and that's it. But other than that, we don't have entertainment places, we don't have cinemas, we don't have and we don't have what else, any kind of entertainment. There is nothing here. That's exactly what making the city and the whole country a bit depressing to youth. All youth just want to escape this place. They see it as a nightmare. You cannot blame them, because it's very sad to see the best years of your life being wasted here. At the same time, it's your country eventually. You can't just leave it.
That's true. What about the schools? What about the young children? Are the schools functioning? And what about people? How do they earn their money? How is the Libyan economy surviving at the moment?
Yeah. Regarding schools, unfortunately, no. The access to education is very difficult. Even before the pandemic, most schools are closed because they're close to conflict zones, or the militias actually residing in those schools. So the access to education became very, very difficult. After the pandemic and the curfew and everything closed, of course, all schools are closed, just like anywhere in the world. And your second question, I just forgot it. What did you ask?
The Libyan economy, are the people earning their money? How are the Libyan economy surviving?
Unfortunately, the government didn't do anything. This is another reason that is making life even more harder here, and because especially those who depend on their daily services, like taxi drivers, like shop sellers, and all those kind of jobs, they really, really depend on their everyday income. So it's becoming very hard, and especially that we have bankruptcy here in Libya, so you can't even withdraw money from your bank. It's getting very, very hard here. I'm not gonna lie. As I said, we're just trying to survive. It's not only surviving from a pandemic. It's actually surviving from hunger, surviving from conflict, surviving from a lot of things.
Yeah, and that's why I really raise my hat, because for a lady And you're extremely gutsy to come back to Tripoli, and then you yourself say it's surviving from basically everything. It's a huge battle of survival for you there, and yet you still prefer to stay in Tripoli, and that's your homeland, that's your country, that's why you want to do it from there. But then, yours, Tripoli is in a beautiful place, and it's like, you oversee the Mediterranean, right? And it's got,
Yes.
I've heard it's got lovely beaches, isn't it?
Yes, the beach here is amazing. No matter where I travel, when it's summer, I just want to come back to Libya because we have amazing beach.
Absolutely, and whatever we have heard about, our research shows. I haven't been to Tripoli, I haven't been to Libya, although I want to go to Libya one day. But then I've been given to believe that there are beautiful roads, and it's a beautiful, very historic, and very beautiful country. Can you just run us through your state, your city, your country, so that for the viewers who haven't seen Libya, because they only understand about conflict Libya, people only know about war-prone Libya, people only know about fighting going on in Libya, but then Libya and Tripoli is also beautiful. There's a lot of heritage, a lot of history behind Tripoli and Libya. If you can just run us through for the benefit of our viewers, what the beauty of Libya and Tripoli.
Yes, unfortunately, Libya has been known as a conflict zone because usually the world doesn't really know doesn't know much about Libya other than it's a conflict zone. Even though Libya has very beautiful historical buildings and places. We have Liptis Magna, we have Ghadam city, we have many cities that represent the Italian heritage, that represent the Roman heritage. Even the buildings in downtown in Tripoli are all Italian, are built by Italians. So you can see the structure of Italian buildings. It's just like in Italy, like exactly. Whenever anyone takes a picture of those buildings in downtown, people think that it's Italy, it's Rome, but it's not. It's because it was built by Italians. And we have what's called Saraya Hamra. It's also a beautiful museum that has astonishing pieces of art. And we have a lot of places, but unfortunately, me as a young girl, I didn't really have the chance to discover my country a lot because the revolution started when I was 12, I guess. So I didn't really spend my youth years discovering my country, even though I really love discovering places. When I traveled and moved to Lebanon, the first thing I did was discovering the whole country. I visited every city in Lebanon. So I really want to do this here in my country as well. I want to show the world the beauty of my country, but I can't because first, as a girl, you can't move easily here. There's a bit restriction of movement for girls, and second, after the war started, you can't just go anywhere because there's no safety. You will just put your life in danger. Yes, but Libya is very beautiful. Honestly, I wish people knew more about it.
Absolutely, Montaha, absolutely. You heard about a country called India?
Yes, of course.
And have you heard about the Indian film and dance? Have you heard about the Bollywood movies?
Yes, I don't really watch them, but all Libyans here, not all of them, but let's say most of them are big fans of Bollywood movies.
Oh, great. So, it's nice to know that in Libya we have a huge market for Indian movies. So,
Yes.
can you name a Bollywood star that you know?
Not really. I don't really watch Bollywood movies, but all my friends are big fans, so I'm not really like knowledgeable about Indian cinema and drama and everything.
Oh, great. So, India is also a vast country, and it's a huge country, and of course, why I asked you about Bollywood, because that's very famous world over as a film industry, and we got a lot of stuff here in India. Of course, at the moment we are battling the pandemic, just like the way the rest of the world are doing it. Of course, we are a little better off than the other parts of the world at this point of time. But then coming back to your place, have you traveled outside? I mean, apart from Lebanon, have you traveled anywhere else in the world? Have you traveled far, or in the United States or UK or any other part of the world?
I've been to Malaysia. It's very beautiful. I've been to Qatar as well. Tunisia as well, of course. What else? Those are the countries I've been to. And for the US, I'm supposed to be there in August because I'm going on a semester abroad there. But since all this pandemic happened, then apparently I am not going. Or maybe my semester will be postponed. We never.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go outside, when you as a Libyan, do you face this kind of questions, or do people look up to you as like, you know, somebody coming from a conflict zone, and how situations in Libya? Do they look up on you in a different manner, or is it like very normal?
It depends on the country. When I went to Malaysia, since Malaysia is in a different continent, so they didn't really recognize my country, or when they hear the word Libya, they think it's Liberia. I'm like, no, it's Libya. Libya does exist. So, and I didn't really face anything. Or some people, when they hear the word Libya, they tell me, oh, there's a conflict now, oh, there's a war. That's literally the only thing people know, because, you know, they read it on the news. And in Arab countries, yes, the discrimination in Arab countries is high. We cannot deny that. So when you say you're Libyan, they kind of look at you as, oh, you came from a war zone, or are you terrorist, or stuff like that. But I always try to show myself as a student, as an intellectual, as someone who wants peace, even though there is a war in my country. But that doesn't mean I am part of that war, because as youth, we only want peace for our countries. We do not have any interference in that war. We try to change this narrative. We try to publish posts online. We try to do online campaigns. We try to do our best just to change that narrative, that us as Libyan youth, we're not terrorists, we're not violent, we want peace, just like any other youth in the world. So it takes a lot of effort to change such narrative, but we're trying.
Absolutely, and you have your full support. We definitely initiative at ANM News, on behalf of my country, on behalf of the entire media community of my country, definitely support peace. We definitely support your initiatives. That we also definitely support the fact that you, the youth of Libya, do not want war. You, the youth of Libya, should not be branded as terrorists, and maybe you, the youth of Libya, are an ambassador for peace. Peace should come back to Libya. Yes, we do support that. Coming to a conflict zone, we have one very interesting question that's come up. I mean, a lot of people are watching you at the moment, Montaha. So the one question that's come up is that now that you're going through curfew, how are you getting your daily ration, food, basic necessities? How are you getting it?
Yeah. There are small shops, they're still open, and mostly you get your stuff by delivery services. That's basically how we get our stuff. You cannot easily go out. And so, yes, we basically depend on delivery services. We don't have other choice, because you cannot go out by car. That's one thing. You can only go out by walk. And since you have to go out walking, that means you cannot go far away. So you just go to the small shops that are near your house. Yeah.
Oh, and now once you need to go back to Lebanon, or supposing you need to catch a flight or something, then how are you going to do that? How do you going to go to those places? How are you going to go to the airport?
Of course, I will not go back until this pandemic ends. So once there's no more curfew, it means I can reach the airport. Although there is one problem about the airport. Tripoli airport gets bombed every now and then, so it's not functioning anymore, or it only functions for a few days and that's it. It gets bombed again by Haftar forces. So whenever you want to travel, you have to go to another city called Misrata, because there is an airport there. So we go to Misrata, which takes us 2 hours drive. We reach there, and then you fly from Misrata airport to either Turkey or Tunisia, and then from Turkey or Tunisia you fly to your targeted destination. It's a very long process, very tiring, but what can we do?
Very, very unfortunate, but then that's why it's great. It's fantastic to hear your story, Montaha. I can go on and on and on and on and on, but then it's really, really fascinating to hear your story. It's really fascinating to hear the way you are living your life in Tripoli, and still going ahead, still very optimistic. One last question that I have from my side is, do you fancy peace? Do you think peace is going to come back in very near future? I know you're optimistic. I know most Libyans are optimistic, but practically, realistically, how do you see peace coming back quickly in Libya?
We cannot use the word quickly and peace in one sentence when it comes to Libya, honestly, because as you said, we try to be optimistic, but there shows the exact opposite. We cannot deny, we cannot lie to ourselves. The situation might take longer than this, because the warlord Haftar will never back. He will continue his shelling until he gets his aim, and the GNA, of course, will not simply surrender, because it's the official government of Libya. It cannot surrender. So none of the two parts will surrender. So it will make this process very difficult, and it may take very much longer than we even think. To the point that when someone asks me about the future, I cannot think of future. I can barely think of what's going to happen in the next few hours. I don't know if my house will be bombed or my neighbor's house will be bombed. So we do not really know. And especially that Libya keeps surprising us every day with something new. One day economic crisis, the other day bankruptcy, the other day new shelling, so you can't really know, and we just hope the best for our country. And the reason why we're all trying to be optimistic and trying to carry on with our daily life is because we cannot stop life. You cannot basically pause life because of the conflict. Yes, maybe our country can be paused, but the rest of the world is still working. Everything is fine. So you cannot pause your education. You cannot pause everything, your activities, everything. You have to keep going. And if we want a brighter future, we have to work in the dark times. So one day when we see the light, we are ready for it. We are ready to build a nation from scratch. And that's basically what everyone is trying to do, because we know for a fact that when all this conflict ends, Libya will need us more than ever. We need to build a new nation from scratch. Yes, we're trying and hopefully crossing fingers for this war to end soon.
Yeah, we also cross our fingers that hoping that the war ends soon, but it's easier said than hope, because what we heard that the Libyan seaport was bombed, thousands of camels had come out from there, isn't it? Were capital Tripoli, about 3,000 camels imported from Australia. That's the latest news that we heard after the bombing of the sea. As we speak, there has not been any fresh incidents of bombing near your neighborhood, Montaha?
No, actually, a few minutes before I have this call with you, there were bombs outside. So I was like, I hope they do not hear this because they will be afraid. So it's just something normal here. Even when I attend my online classes, there's always that sound of bombs outside. So I keep muting myself so my other colleagues do not hear the sound. It's very ironic, honestly.
I understand, and I wish you, your fellow Libyans, and everybody in your country, peace-loving citizens in your country, all the best from our side. Welcome to come to our country anytime you feel like. Welcome to India. And of course, thanks for talking to us in ANM News. And we really, really hope and pray that Libya see peace in the near future. That's what we hope. That we can only hope. We cannot kind of bend the political situation that exists in that region. But then again, we kind of call upon everybody to have saner senses, give youth a chance in Libya, because the entire community, the entire youth community wants peace.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for talking to us, Montaha. We'll keep coming back to you very often, and we really appreciate your time. We really appreciate the fact that you took time out and tuned into us, share your thoughts, share your experiences with us. Thank you very much, Montaha.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was all from ANM, from our side in ANM News. We spoke to our very, very young colleague. I won't say a colleague in journalism, but a colleague in humanity, a human being in Libya, right in Tripoli. And as I spoke to her, she mentioned that just before speaking, there was a couple of bombings, but that did not deter her from getting on with this conversation. We only wish her all the best, and we wish all Libyans and everybody in the world, peace-loving citizens in the world, all the best from ANM. Thank you. Thank you very much.